Good morning and good afternoon, KSD members. I am Dami Kim, Assistant Manager of Global Planning Department at Korea Securities Depository. It is a great honor to make a presentation to such a distinguished audience today. It's a pity that we can't be together in person, but from a glass half perspective, it's a great that we still have this chance to meet. I sincerely hope that this seminar will make us feel more closer and give us opportunity to learn from one another. Now, let me start my presentation. The title of my presentation is KSD for Overseas Investment. Well, yeah, it's about investment. You know, while working in this field, one of the most frequently asked questions is this. Hey, Dami, you have some information, right? Then please tell me what stock to buy. Whenever I'm faced with such a situation, I just show them my pathetic brokerage account balance without saying anything. Then they never ask me again. Yes, obviously, working for KSD couldn't make me investment genius, but it gives me strong pride in the fact that we are contributing to a reliable and safe investment market. It's like we are kind of like a guardian of the market. When it comes to the overseas investment, that aspect especially stands out. So during my presentation, I'm going to share some insights on how KSD acts as a guardian of overseas investment by walking you through our various global services. During my brief presentation, first, I'll introduce our cross-border settlement and deposit services. Then I'll give you some detailed explanation on our DR and KDR services. Thirdly, I'll outline some other cross-border services we provide. Then, last but not least, I'll finish my presentation with our future plans. Okay, first part. In this part, I focused on our cross-border settlement and deposit services. Let's see how KSD guarantees the freedom of investment. Let me start with a quick question. Have you ever tried investing in foreign markets? Actually, overseas investment is booming in Korea currently. The case in point is Tesla. Due to its incredibly high returns, it was even called Godzilla, in the sense that it deserved to be praised like a god. In the beginning of this year, Korean investors heavily invest in Tesla with their combined share value surpassing $10 billion. As such, overseas investment is no longer the exclusive area for professional investors. Thanks to the edge information technology, common people from teens to seniors now have easy access to overseas investment. And fierce competition among securities firms attributed to the advances in offshore brokerage services. As a result, overseas securities trading volume peaked at over $157 billion in the first quarter of this year, up by 75% from last year. Definitely, that's a rapid increase. You know, rapid increases often lead to instability. However, Korean investors do not hesitate to expand their portfolio more wider. How could they do that? I believe you could guess. Yes, because there is KSD for Korean investors. I'm going to move on to the next picture to give you more details. First, I'll show you basic settlement flow. Let's say Tammy, who lives in Korea, wants to buy some Apple stocks. The first thing she has to do is placing a trade order to a domestic broker in Korea. And then the domestic broker would relay this order to a local broker in the United States. At this time, the domestic broker should notify the local broker of the transaction details, along with the fact that this settlement will be carried out by KSD. This way, the local broker and the global custodian appointed by KSD can complete the transaction locally. Well, at this point, cautious investors might be curious. How and where my securities would be kept? Well, that brings us to the next slide. To address this problem, we have introduced distinctive and effective structure shown in this picture. Under this structure, all overseas securities of domestic investors are kept in the KSD's account opened in global custodians. So investors can reach multiple overseas markets on a single path. Accordingly, investors can be guaranteed three of the most important things in investment. Yeah, that's right. Convenience, stability, and low cost. Okay, then how about rights exercising? Language and legal differences could be major obstacles in overseas investment. But Korean investors don't have to worry about them. As you can see in this picture, KSD secures all the corporate action-related information derived from the foreign issuers as the nominee of securities. This structure enables domestic investors to exercise their rights without dealing with overseas institutions. Now, let's look from the perspective of issuers. In this part, I'd like to talk about how KSD supports companies expanding across the borders. Domestic markets are always too small for companies eager to grow. In that respect, depository receipts, in short DR, is one of the most powerful and efficient instruments to expand their presence worldwide. It can be proven by the fact that several leading Korean companies, including Samsung Electronics, have already issued DRs. But it may still sound least familiar to some of you, so let me elaborate on it a little bit. To put it simply, you can think DRs as the estranged twin of ordinary shares. They have similar values and similar characters, but they were born and raised in other countries. Does it sound a little weird? Then let me just show you how DRs are issued initially. It begins with entering into the deposit agreement between an issuer and their depository. Then, the DR depository appoints a local custodian to deposit underlying shares. KSD is the local custodian in this process. So when we confirm the receipt of the shares to the depository, they issue and distribute DRs to the investors. Okay, now you know what DR is. Then why DR? What are the benefits of DR issuance? Well, we can find the benefits of DR issuance from 2 points of view: issuers and investors. First, what benefits could issuers enjoy by issuing DRs? Most importantly, it enables issuers to raise more capital by tapping into the global market and attracting investors around the world. It can aid the companies that are not able to be listed directly in foreign markets. Then how about their investors? DRs allow investors to invest in the foreign company while trading in a local stock exchange in their home country. It means they don't need to worry about international trading policies or legal language differences. Once the DR program is in place, investors can convert DRs into shares at any time and vice versa. These kinds of trades are largely carried out for arbitrage trades. In this process, we act as an intermediary between the domestic agent and the DR depository to match the transactions and manage the book entry of the shares. Good. Let's now move on to the rights exercising of DR holders. Although DR investors invest in a foreign company, they can still enjoy the same rights as shareholders. As you can see in the left picture, DR holders can exercise their rights through their depository, and we deliver these instructions to issuers as a proxy. It is possible because we have entered into a proxy agreement with their depository. Also, as shown in the timeline on the right, when a company pays dividends, we withhold taxes and exchange the remainder into the target currency. Well, so far, we have looked into how KSD supports domestic companies to raise overseas funds. Then, how about foreign companies? How KSD can support them? Can you guess? Yes, DR is also the solution for those companies. In this case, it is called KDR, Korean Depository Receipts. In this situation, KSD acts as a depository bank to issue and deposit KDRs. KDR issuance minimizes the problem of legal conflicts between countries through the elaborately constructed terms and conditions. Now, let's move on to our other global services. First, I'd like to give you an overview of the inter-CSD linkage service. Currently, JustTech is the only CSD linked with us. Through this structure, securities can be freely traded in Japan while actually being held in Korea. This unique structure allows low cost and high efficiency transactions. The most featured part is that investors can request to migrate their securities to another country for arbitrage trade. Next, let's take a look at Asian services for overseas bonds. On behalf of the companies that issued overseas bonds, such as convertible bond, bond with warrants, or exchangeable bond, KSD acts as an agent supporting exercise rights of bondholders. Since we also act as a CSD of the shares linked to these bonds, the time required for stock delivery to investors can be shortened. This can benefit investors by increasing liquidity of their funds and reducing the risk from stock price fluctuation. Third, the standing proxy service. This usually combines with other custody services and yields synergies. We provide a wide range of proxy services from investment registration to withholding tax. Our proxy service is featured by high efficiency as our essential role is CSD. Well, I'm now approaching the end of presentation. Today, we have shared some insights on how KSD supports investors and companies pioneering overseas markets. Let me briefly summarize what we have covered today. First, our cross-border deposit and settlement services allow domestic investors access the wider investment opportunities. Second, we provide both custody and depository services for their issuers to help them access the overseas capital. Third, we make constant efforts to contribute to the development of the global financial market by making the most of the functions as a CSD. This leads to my final point, our future plans. For the moment, we are focusing on expansion and improvement of overseas securities services such as collateral management or lending service. Other than that, a sponsored DR and or CSD linkage with other countries is under discussion. However, we don't put limits on ourselves, but always pursue new businesses. And I believe that we can create a lot of synergy for our mutual growth by building strong partnership. For that, I hope the bonds between us as the guardians of the global investment markets will be strengthened through our continuous interaction. Thank you for listening. I hope to see you all in person in the near future. Stay safe and wishing all the best for you. Thank you.
So much. Thank you so much, Ms. Kim. That was a brilliant presentation. I should admit that. So thank you. That was very interesting and informative. And no questions from the audience at the moment. If there are any, we will contact you accordingly. Thank you and stay safe and have a nice day ahead.